can't believe you distrust me that much. I'm incredible at not
Here,
giving anything
I'm not
away
gonna lie,
in
Lewis.
films.
Your
Yeah.
Batman thing was pretty spoilery.
What did it include? What was spoiler about?
Well, you said Bruce Wayne is Batman, and that was a bit like I was a bit like, whoa, wait a second.
Hello and welcome to the Unwanted Opinions podcast. I'm your host Lewis, and I'm joined, as always, by my good friend Kyle.
Hello.
And my other good friend Gonzalo.
Hey.
Hey to you too. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about, one of the most controversial topics in cinema today, and that is the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Is it cinema? Is it not? Well, we have the answers here, of course, because we're the biggest film aficionados around. But as always, with each episode, we'll have news with Kyle at the midway point, and then to round off our discussion at the end, I will also have a review for Everything Everywhere All at Once that's finally been released here in the UK. So, that is today's show. Are you guys ready?
Yeah, I want that clip actually of you going, is it cinema? Well, it's with the hand it's the Matt Smith hand movements. I just want that as a wee clip.
We need a Patreon. They need to see all the hand movements that you constantly reference, Kyle.
I just want to ask Gonzalo actually if he saw that Mother's Day
the tweet
from a certain film that I legally
can't say anymore. Well, you could say the studio Sony. No. It was a Sony.
So the
tweet.
Sony released a Mother's Day, American Mother's Day, which always scares me, by the way, because I go, oh shit. Yeah.
All right.
And
Spanish Mother's Day is also different from British Mother's Day, which is different from American Mother's Day. It's great.
Terrible.
It's great. It's
but
awesome.
They released a clip. Sony released a clip of an actor, Matt Smith, in a role of a film, legally I cannot say, dancing. And it was, I can't remember the quote exactly.
It was hashtag.
It involved,
do you want to say that?
It involved the use of the mother and the word of the movie, which will begin with M. For legal reasons I cannot say. But it was incredible.
I did not see this, but I will be seeking this out right after the recording ends, maybe during the recording.
But right, let's just kind of jump right into today's episode.
Let's go.
Yeah.
So Gonzalo, this was actually your idea. You raised to me a few weeks ago how you really wanted to talk about this, and actually, once you raised the whole MCU's movie debate that I guess was stirred up almost 3 years ago by comments by Martin Scorsese, which we'll get into. I was also like, you got me thinking, I was just like, and especially after Doctor Strange 2 and some of the issues I had with that film, that whole being about, having to watch other things to really fully get a grasp of what's going on here, that aren't just necessarily films, like actually TV projects, that you actually, in a way, you kind of make the sequel problem even worse for some people, It's not just, I need to watch one film, I need to watch so on and so on and so on. But anyway, after that sort of problem I had with Doctor Strange 2, I was like, how do we view the Marvel Cinematic Universe at this point? Because we're now at, 28 films? I think 28 films.
Something like that, yeah.
I think this is 28. We're at 28 films now, and it's gotten to... I think I want to start off with this, okay? It's gotten to a point now where trying to take these films in isolation becomes almost impossible. I think maybe the best one in recent memory might have been the Shang-Chi one, because that was the most self-contained. Yeah. But overall, because of the whole idea of what the Marvel Cinematic Universe is meant to be, the whole crossover stuff, getting all this massive array of characters from the comic books and putting them into film, you then sort of, like we talked about earlier today, actually, Gonzalo, which you said it kind of alters what we view as film in a way. I don't know if you want to carry on with that point you said earlier to me.
Yeah, no, like the thing because we were harping on the exact quote from Martin Scorsese that started the whole discussion and like how people got really upset that he said that it wasn't real cinema. Yeah. It was more like a
theme park.
I have the quote up here.
He said it was more like
just read it.
Theme park
more
cinema.
like he said it was more like a ride.
Yeah, a roller coaster, didn't he?
Like a roller coaster. Yeah. He said it was more like a roller coaster. So a lot of people got really upset at that. Again, I have no idea what Martin Scorsese was thinking. He released a whole article explaining his opinions further and stuff in the New York Times. But the idea, I feel like what we were discussing is that like film has been like a part of human experience for very little time, but at this point, like it's starting to evolve and change what it means for a film to be a film. And the fact that like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, as you said, it's such a big interconnected thing where like it takes homework to actually watch these movies. You can't just watch them in isolation and enjoy them in the same way. Or even understand them on their own, some of them. It really does mean that this has become a different type of cinema than the one that we're used to. It feels like cinema is evolving and changing, and this specific side of big budget filmmaking has become this whole thing that obviously a lot of people are wanting to replicate, but no one really quite has, and it's become its own kind of phenomena, if that makes any sense. So I could understand and justify it, like the reluctance to call it cinema, because it doesn't feel like the same thing that, for example, Martin Scorsese grew up with. You know?
Yeah. Well, actually, I kind of want to open the floor more here. How do we differ? You know, we talked about sequels before, and now we're talking about the MCU. I'm saying, how do we differ as a sequel cinema then? Because in a sense, that is not a self-contained story. Although some of the best sequels we talked about can be. Does that mean any sequel in any form doesn't become cinema then? If you catch my drift.
I know what you're getting at. Yeah.
Kyle.
I don't think so, because I think with the idea of a sequel is that it's a continuation of a story. So it's like you've created a work of art, but the creator wants to go back and adds more to kind of extend the story.
Okay.
I would say it would have to be considered cinema, because it's, if you look at it as just a continuation of the first piece.
You're talking like Iron Man? Or are you talking about sequels? Sorry. Sequels are Iron
Man. Yeah. Like, obviously, but you have... I mean, I was kind of thinking outside of the MCU, just sequels in general.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know? Like... Because if you look at it, like, obviously, like... You know... The sequels of books... if you look at the high power films, which are sequels and sequels, they're just because they're the sequels of the books, you know?
Yeah.
And you're not going to give a sequel of a book any less right and calling it,
Yeah, because you still do need to, like, you need that context, especially
you need the
like
context
Harry Potter.
to
Like, if you watch
the
last movies, like, you need the first movies to understand what's going on.
Obviously, for people who are just casual cinema goers who just maybe go maybe once a month to see a film, sequels are probably more of a chore, like we'll discuss, especially when it comes to the MCU.
Yeah.
But I don't think
sure.
that's a reason to diminish sequels and larger kind of story collectives as a whole for not considering them being cinema. But I do see the reasons why they can be more of a chore than anything, but I would still say that they are cinema.
Okay.
See, I feel like there's a very big distinction between a straightforward sequel and what the MCU is.
Well,
because I feel like okay, so hear me out. Yeah, I might be completely wrong here, but I think that when it comes to a sequel, especially like a planned sequel, something like you have the trilogy for The Lord of the Rings. Okay, they're based on a book, but imagine they just weren't. It's just they plan to tell that story. When you have a sequel that's been planned, there is not only like an arc, a story that is being told with each individual film, but a story that is being told overall, and which every film is a part of. And I think that where that is very distinct from the MCU is that if you can find any arcs within the entirety of the MCU, they feel more coincidental or something that was retroactively done, rather than there is purposefully this story that you need every single chapter to understand. Yeah. If that makes any sense.
No, I get what you're saying. Yeah. But actually,
I'm not saying that didn't exist beforehand, because we've seen bad sequels and bad trilogies and stuff like that. Like, I'm just saying that that's what, like, I wouldn't stop calling it cinema. I just call it bad cinema.
Yeah, okay. Bad cinema. That's a good way to look at it. But I want to get to, like, the whole the whole idea of the thought process of why these comments were made. I like how we're talking about this like 3 years after the fact, but they are still really relevant.
Yeah.
But it's also because
especially now.
Yeah. We're talking about with Scorsese and Coppola and the whole that sort of era of cinema that they started making films in the 60s and 70s. They were like filmmakers who were allowed to, at that time, studios were taking much bigger risks. It was almost like competition. So you almost had like every director was like, how can I make my film like the most experiential, the coolest film, like the most experimental? How can I get... And that's what got audience in seats. It wasn't necessarily something so formulaic. It was them taking risks and studios wanting filmmakers to take more risks, which is
the brand new thing rather than the same thing you're comfortable with but different.
Which is now we're literally in today's sort of like big cinema. You're facing the complete opposite of that. It's now, studios are chasing nostalgia or chasing what makes people comfortable because that's what will make them go see films instead of something weird or something there's like what is this or like something that makes them have to really think or like
which is it's interesting because it probably is affected by like the actual times that we're living through. Like these are incredibly uncertain and uncomfortable times and ever changing, and it makes sense that the entertainment and the happy place would be more comfortable, and they're looking for that. Hey, this is something that like it's the same thing you already like but slightly different. It's like the idea behind franchising restaurants, like the same kind of thing. It's like no matter where you are, you'll still get the McDonald's. It's gonna taste the same. It's the same thing you like. Don't worry, don't change too much. That kind of attitude, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. I want to read out the comment that he said years ago because I want to get to the part of what he wanted to say really. And he said, the situation, sadly, is that we now have two separate fields. There's worldwide audio-visual entertainment and there's cinema. They still overlap from time to time, but that's becoming increasingly rare, and I fear that the financial dominance of one is being used to marginalise and even belittle the existence of the other. And what he was getting at there was basically the idea of cinema screens and multiplexes they have to obviously divvy up screens to whatever's going to be the most popular film coming out each month or week. And that's what he was getting at is, okay, look, these are Marvel films or superhero films, you could extend that to, are taking up all the screens and all the time, and that means it pushes out everything else. The theaters have to prioritize what they want to put on. But to sort of kind of like, I guess, rebuke that comment is... Any big film would do that though, in a way. Like if we're having like Jurassic World's coming out, or Top Gun's actually coming out next week, for example, and that's going to be the film that's going to, take up all the cinema screens. It's not necessarily exclusively the Marvel films.
Yes, but I also kind of understand what he means, and I feel like the pandemic kind of like enhanced this. So we talked about this when we did our episode on like cinemas dying and stuff, and we talked about how like it's this big releases that actually like kept them afloat, and I feel like it's going to become the lifeblood of them, and that's the kind of like thing that we're scared of. Like the fact that Everything Everywhere All at Once doesn't come out in my country until the 28th, and I am still not sure whether I'll be able to see it. Is truly sad and worrisome for like, because it's not even a small budget movie.
No,
it might be an indie film, but it's not even a small budget movie. It's just not one of the big ones. It's not the to go back to McDonald's, the ones that they make McDonald's toys for.
Well, like, this will actually, you're saying that because See Everything Everywhere All at Once is a film that has buzz going from when it was released in America months ago. And that's one that is actually still chugging along the American box office, and it has so much buzz around it, and even a film like that can't even see the time of day in certain cinemas or certain countries is quite sad. And we're actually going to get further into there's sort of like a self like cannibalization of like franchise cinema, because when we get to the news, we're going to be talking about the new Predator film, for example. And I won't say what we're going to talk about there, but this actually leans into our discussion about certain things getting pushed out of cinemas, even if they are IPs and franchises that people know that actually is it actually even worth their time now to put in a cinema?
Yeah, like we saw that with the Northman. The Northman was given quite a big budget, and it was given quite a lot of room.
Yeah.
Because there were no big releases around it, and
Love that film.
It's still flopped. Which it's honestly a very predictable thing. It wasn't a movie that was made for the masses. It was a movie that was made for a very specific audience.
Okay.
And to give a very specific experience, you know.
Yeah.
And sadly, we see those things like it was counted as a flop, even though I believe it made its money back. Did it?
No.
Lewis?
No, not yet.
No, it did not. Not yet. Okay.
Might just.
So yeah, no, yeah, but that's the kind of movie we would have seen back in the day, where it's like, hey, it's this this brand new thing. No one's done this. Let's try do this thing. It's different, so people would have gone see it. We saw like big historical epics like Gladiator get a lot of audiences when it came out.
Yeah.
And it's not like it came out after like a series of big historical epics. It was like one of the big ones. And you saw studios push to like try these new things, look for these new niches where they could get money. It feels like, and as always, this is a money issue and this is a corporate issue because money is the death of art. But yeah, you see they have found a niche. They see that it's comfortable. Nostalgia sells, no matter how bad it is, no matter if it's well done, if it's rushed, it doesn't matter. As long as it's nostalgic, then it'll make enough money. So it's profitable. Let's make things comfortable. Let's make things safe. Let's make them as profitable as possible. And honestly, I don't think you can blame creators. I don't think you can blame directors or crews for this. This is 100% a money issue and the people with money making the decisions. And you can't even blame them because at the end of the day, when you have thousands of people working under you, if you make a movie that doesn't make its money back, those people lose their jobs.
Yeah.
So it's a very tough issue and it's a very interesting issue, and I don't know how it's going to get solved.
Yeah, actually,
we are losing on things.
I'm gonna ask. You know? I'm gonna jump on what you're saying about this idea of nostalgia and safe films, right? And I'm gonna ask Kyle. Kyle, it's this kind of hard one, right? Because see when like a new Marvel film comes out and you talk to your friends, or you talk to other people, and usually the response to them, well, the most recent ones anyway, the last 5, maybe excluding Spider-Man, that was a thing. Twitter and everyone was buzzing about, right? But most times people are just like, it was alright. You know, it was decent.
Yeah.
It was fine. And I'm going to ask you, why do you think...
Why
do you think are they coming back to these safe films that they know, like 4 out of 5 times is going to be like, it's okay?
Well, right. So the issue that you have here, Liz, is that I think it's easy. Right. Bold statement. I think Marvel has peaked.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
I don't think it's that bold.
No, I agree. I agree with you.
But it has peaked, right? So the issue is, right, so if we look at the Infinity Saga, sorry, the Infinity Saga, self-contained, it has its flaws, but overall, it's quite a good story. Like, if you can contain it, it looks okay. Obviously, it was never planned from the start, so there's obviously adjustments made, add-ons and everything. But I think now we have to look at the fans of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and know that they are, without a doubt, terrible. not Star Wars level of fandom.
Right, okay.
Star Wars fans are horrific. Marvel fans are quite bad. But
hey, Carl, you're attacking to the people that listen to us. So
I'm attacking myself here. I'm attacking myself.
We're gonna lose an audience here.
So no, but listen. It's the thing is, right? You go off the bat of, let's say, Endgame, right?
Yeah.
Where you get a completely ridiculous scene where you have Spider-Man in the Iron Spider suit, webbed onto Mjolnir, thrown by Captain America, holding the Infinity Gauntlet, right?
Yeah.
Fans are going to be like, this is what I like. I want more of this.
I wanted to see, yeah.
Yeah, this is what I want to see, and this is why when we have the issues where it gets to, like, you know, so the first one was Black Widow, and everybody's going, well, because it's set between those, do you think we'll get Captain America or Iron Man showing up? And I'm no, you're the issue is in the films is that people are shooting themselves too high. They're like Marvel are almost trying to start from the beginning again with a new saga, right? And whatever the saga will be called.
At this point.
Exactly, and I think that's the issue that they're trying to find is that with some of the characters and some of the films, they're trying to start again. So Black Widow was the Black Widow was a bizarre one, and I think it was just used to introduce the character of Yelena.
Yeah, that was the point of it. Yeah,
pretty much.
You know, more or less.
She was the best part of the movie.
Yeah, so if you really look at Black Widow as like Yelena's origin movie, right? You look at Black Widow and you just take that as Yelena's film, not Natasha's.
Black Widow.
Yeah. Then you can look at that going right. So that's like the Iron Man of this new, phase, new saga. We have Shang-Chi, and everybody was kind of going like, "Oh, this is gonna be fantastic for this and this and that," and then it was pretty mediocre, you know. But then like, the end credit scenes are like, "Oh, look, there's Bruce and Carol. This is what we want. Yay, faces that we know. Simple, you know." Ooh.
Yeah.
Then you went to like Eternals, and Eternals I think was a big hitter because Eternals was like hyped for being like the new age of Marvel. This is us breaking boundaries of how cinema can be done. You know? But you remember, like, do you not remember the famous quote of like Kevin Feige saying that he thought this film was too good?
Yeah, that was like years. That was like a year or so ago. Like he said, like
that was like 2019. That was like
movie.
2019 or 2020 when they were filming, and he was like, "I've seen footage, and I really do believe this film was actually too good." And then obviously you had the hype of
too good for humans.
Yeah, and then you had the hype of the director
Clearly,
winning
we didn't understand it. So
yeah, and then you had the hype for the winner, the director winning for the Nomadland.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then that film was pretty mediocre because the story just wasn't airtight.
It rambled. It was
a
ramble of a film.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's the issue is that I don't know, because there was news that, was it a week ago or 2 weeks ago? I think it was around about the time of CinemaCon, that Kevin Feige was actually at a Marvel retreat, where basically they put a bunch of writers in a room, and they were trying to plan out the next 10 years of Marvel cinema. Right?
Yeah.
This gives me a bit of, like, thought, because I'm like, right, okay, maybe they're trying to make it more of a solid structure than when they kind of realized, because it was only really phase 2 of the Infinity Saga that I think they kind of went, right, we actually could have an end goal here.
We're building to this big thing.
Yeah. So and then but I think the main issue is Spider-Man ruined a lot in the sense it gave too much.
Oh, I completely agree.
Right.
Spider-Man, if anything, Spider-Man, what's it called? Home something.
No Way Home.
No Way Home.
No Way Home. Yeah, Spider-Man No Way Home, I would say is the closest thing that we've ever gotten to what he described as a roller coaster instead of a film.
That was really it, because it was a roller coaster in the fact that you came out of that thinking that was incredible. Then you look back, and then you, like, a few months later, you go,
it was cotton candy.
That was just adrenaline rush.
No,
that's what that film was. You know,
I loved watching that movie, and then a week later, I was like, "Wait, what the fuck?"
I really don't want to rewatch it anytime soon.
Yeah.
Like, I want to wait a year or so to rewatch it so that I can
still
feel that adrenaline again.
But actually,
if we look at the Multiverse of Madness for a sec. Now, obviously, I want to go into. We obviously discussed spoilers, and it's been out for a week or so, or 2 weeks.
Yeah, just give a little spoiler warning here.
Yeah, a spoiler warning for the Multiverse of Madness. Is that I think there's also an issue of Marvel are now, dare I say, doing a DC and having a bit more, jumping a bit too much with what the creators are doing, because it was confirmed. Basically, Elizabeth Olsen did one of those lie detector interviews. I don't know if you saw that, where they showed her a picture of John Krasinski and went, "Is this the smartest man alive?" And she was like, "I've never met that man." And then it's like kind of confirming that.
So,
what we all suspected
from 2 episodes ago, Kyle.
That they were not.
You suspected 2 episodes ago that the reshoots that were taking place and the things that they were shooting and stuff
were
was basically
the Illuminati.
inserts. Yeah, it was basically the inserts to
so
the
that
middle
makes me
bits of the
feel
movie.
that like I genuinely feel there was some sort of like early reaction to maybe Spider-Man, or they saw the film and saw that this is going to go well, so they went, we're going to add these in. And this is the
because if
issue,
you've been
because
following
now,
the fans, like everyone's been like, oh, this person will be there and this person will be there, and oh my god, they're going to show this other person.
And now the issue is that with all this is that the fans are speculating too much, right?
Yeah.
Back when the Infinity Saga was, the speculation wasn't huge because there was not anything to compare it to, right? Because all you had to compare it to was like the previous movies. So when you had Iron Man 2 and War Machine showed up, that was insane. I was like, oh my god, we've got another person on it, right? And then you had the Avengers, and you're like, oh my god, that's insane. We have another person. And then once an Endgame hit, it's now gone to that point where they're now like, oh my god, they're building up for Secret Wars. We're going to have every single character on screen at once. And then they're going to get annoyed when they try and make smaller films.
Yeah. Well, actually, this
and then
is what
the studio aren't going to support making more
smaller
ones,
stories, which is the
ones.
Because like that's the same problem we saw with the Sea. It's
like,
I'm sorry, but it's the small quality contained films that build up to the big ones.
I want to kind of quickly. I know it's not a film, right? But just because we're talking about Marvel, if you took the Moon Knight TV show, right, and you squeezed that 6 episodes into one movie.
Be horrible.
People would I know.
I agree. Gonzalo, it would not be good.
No, I know. Sorry, but I know there's a general issue with the kind of like villain and premise and all that. But people would hate it because it's so self-contained.
Yeah.
And that there's literally no connection. Shang-Chi was so close to being really self-contained, and then it had that post-credit scene. Obviously, it had Wong. Sorry, I keep forgetting about Wong.
Wong and Abomination.
Abomination. Yeah, sorry, I actually forgot about that. Yeah. But like, if you did that, if the Moon Knight show was a
Wong
film,
and Abomination were more like, the Wong and Abomination were more like little cameos than anything else. But
then the Bruce and Carol, where they basically went, "You're an Avenger now."
Obviously.
They jumped the whole fucking thing.
They jumped the gun. Yeah. They jumped the gun completely, and I feel like that's an issue. And we've seen that sadly, and I say this seriously, the last Spider-Man was a complete success. And everybody absolutely loved it. And that is a horrible thing for the future of Marvel, because we've seen it in Doctor Strange. Again, we talked about it. Light spoilers. I'm not going to say who appears or whatever, but we saw in the middle bit of that movie, they just chucked a bunch of people there for no fucking reason at all, and just made the movie worse because of it.
Yeah. Well, Kyle,
the Martin Scorsese quote 3 years ago was... sorry.
So, no, well, actually, I think we were both going to say pretty much the exact same thing. That's what I mean about the whole self-cannibalization thing. They've built up an empire, and then because people are obsessed with things that have already been and characters they've loved who are now gone or in different universes or whatever, that they feel like we need to sort of eat on our own success because they're now too scared to sort of expand and start again, and that's why they're kind of throwing everything in the kitchen sink. They're just like, we need to throw everything at it, everything we have.
I do feel that when Martin Scorsese originally made that comment, I think it was a bit out of line. I don't think so now. I don't.
It
I
feels
really
like
think
a prediction now more than an actual comment.
Post Endgame Marvel is becoming a bit ridiculous, and a bit of a problem.
Yeah. Well,
especially with the whole homework on how to watch things.
Again, they're becoming the DCU right now. They're doing exactly what Warner Brothers did when they saw the MCU. They made one Superman movie. Nobody liked it because it was a bad movie, and then they were like, "Okay, let's just do Superman versus Batman. Okay, let's put some Justice League in there. Let's put the Flash and the Wonder Woman."
I would love if Marvel decided just to kind of just do separate films. Like, I don't need every film to be connected. I just want fun superhero films. I know you don't,
Kyle, but sadly the numbers.
Yeah, but that's it. I think that is the issue. I think it's the numbers that they're looking at are saying that's what makes us move. That's what makes us money. Let's go do this.
But
which is a shame.
Just to sort of round off before we kind of head off to the news, it's that thing you said earlier, Gonzalo, is that Spider-Man, or was it Kev? I don't know. One of you, one of you said Spider-Man No Way Home was the closest thing to a theme park ride, because when you take out the buzz of seeing Toby and Andrew and the rush of the finale, and you literally just go, let's look at the first two acts. Let's actually just look at this as a story, and you just look at it and go, this was literally just contrived, messy stuff just to make just to make the drop of that ride happen, just to make you're building up to then
exactly.
the excitement of the ride.
It's a justification for a scene.
Yes,
the whole movie is just a justification for a scene, and then halfway through the end, they're like, "Oh, now let's take him out of here because mommy and daddy are arguing, and we're not sure who's keeping the kid. So let's just my pronunciation is horrible. Keeping the kid. There you go. Sometimes my Spanish comes through, just sometimes.
I really think now that I'm actually, I dare say this, I actually more enjoy the shows because they're so self-contained.
Yes.
Right.
I don't think the shows are good.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm enjoying them more because I feel you can just I know there's some shows, but if you look at like Hawkeye, and as long as you know that he's had some fights, it's a simple two people with bows are fighting the mafia.
Yeah.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no who's gonna be there?
Who's gonna show up?
So they do the thing where they take the consequences of previous movies, but they're telling their own separate story. Yeah.
Yes.
Actually, for me, the shows, and again, some of them are good, some of them are bad, some of them start brilliant and end like shit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, the shows are like a breath of fresh air, because even though they still have the issue of the blandness that is that has become of the MCU.
Yeah.
I still like the fact that they're self-contained and they're trying different things, and sometimes they completely fail. But the fact that they're self-contained, or were until Doctor Strange came out, I guess, the fact that they were self-contained to a point means that even if they fail horribly at it, it's okay, because it doesn't affect the next show.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Well, yeah, I mean. Well, I think I have a completely different view than you guys. Well, no, you said Gothal. You said Gothal that some of them could be a bit bland, and some of them are just like. For me, they are just like extended, like bottom of the barrel MCU films. Like, I am no longer interested in the shows. Like, I'm not gonna watch Miss Marvel or whatever's next. Like, I'm at a point where like I don't want to spend 6 hours watching this. Like.
Yeah,
after midnight, as much as I liked Oscar Isaac and as much as I liked the character and like the whole personality and stuff, everything else surrounding that to me was completely dull and just so disinteresting. So I just don't want to watch them anymore. And they seem very predictable in where they're going to go. It's all going to end in a big fight with the big bad guy. And it's
fucking
just
fight with the bad guy. I'm just saying, WandaVision, such a good show. It was such a good show. And then they decided to climax the show with her fighting a witch we just got introduced to in the previous episode.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck was that shit? I'm sorry, light spoilers for WandaVision, but... Holy crap, like, it was so interesting. They were doing such interesting things with, like, the methodology, breaking the fourth wall and stuff. It was pretty freaking interesting, and then they just turned it into a Marvel slush fest. And my issue with these films, and it honestly has been from the start, it's just they kind of almost got away with it for me up to Endgame. Yeah. But it doesn't mean it wasn't a problem. No. And it's the blandness. The fact that just because these films are interconnected in their universe doesn't mean that they have to aesthetically and fucking just the filmmaking. It feels like a robot is directing them.
Yeah, it is gay
because
to point.
It is. It's a whole
absolutely.
It's a whole group of people who sit around a table and make a decision. That's
even
not how you make a movie.
Even when we said about Doctor Strange 2, it's like, a robot directed it, and then they let Sam Raimi in the room for 25 minutes, and then that was it.
Exactly. Exactly.
So,
they were like, okay, Sam, you can take the camera for a bit. Okay, we're taking it away now.
I do think Marvel just put all the wow moments into like an algorithm, and then make like a robot, like, it's like one of those things where I made a bot watch 600 hours of romance comedies, and it made me this romance film.
One.
Yeah.
But that's what it feels like, because it's not. There's not okay. So I talk about this the whole time, like all the time. A movie's not made by one person. It's a whole team of people contributing and working towards a common goal. but it's not made by a committee either. It's a singular vision that a lot of people contribute towards, but there has to be a singular leading vision for that movie to be a good one.
Yeah.
At the very least, one that tries to be good.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, actually,
and for me, for Marvel movies, it feels like there's 70 people around a table directing the movie.
Well, actually, what about this, right? I would say to you, right, if you look at all 28 films, I think for me, right, it's not my number one, but it's definitely up there as one of my favorite of the Marvel Cinematic Universe films. I think the most complete Marvel Cinematic Universe film, one you can just take, you can watch, it's its own thing, it's its own film that is just, it's all tied up in one film, and it's good fun, and that's that first Guardians of the Galaxy film. I think that,
I would agree.
I think that to me is the most complete Marvel film, and it works in both ways, because it works as it's entirely its own thing. You don't need to know, you really don't need to know anything else, right?
I would agree.
Thanos may be in it, but
he's there, but who gives a fuck?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. He's just like a big just a big evil man in it, right? You don't need to know what they're building up to after this. You don't need to know what Thanos was like an end credits thing in the first Avengers film. Like, it works completely in its own right, right? And also that first Iron Man film, I'd say as well. But
and you know why those films stand out? It's because when they made the first Iron Man, they just let Jon Favreau direct a movie. And when they made Guardians of the Galaxy, it was such a small niche thing and such an experiment. They didn't really give a fuck if it was going to be good or not. They just let them do whatever. And there's still a lot of visual blandness in that film because they had to be visually consistent. And that's the thing that annoys me the most, because in the second one, they pushed to actually make it, colors other than gray. I feel like as a story, that is just like a full character arc for every single person
absolutely.
And beginning to end, and it could end there, and you could only watch that movie,
and it works.
And I did,
because
that is the movie that I must have watched the most out of the entire thing, probably upwards of 30 times, and I'm not even kidding here, because my dad and I would sit down to just rewatch that movie. I can quote that movie like so fucking much because it's a good story, and it's self-contained, and it works, and you don't need to know who the fuck Captain America is to watch that movie. It's just a good movie with good characters, and it's, to me, the closest thing, as you say, that comes to like a good self-contained fucking
but when
Marvel
we get
film.
to, for example, you could watch Guardians 1 and 2 as its own thing, right? But guess what? With Guardians 3, you need to see 2 Avengers films to understand where we're starting off there. So
not only that, but in Endgame, again, as big of a thing as it is, they decided to accelerate a character arc and make actually in Infinity War, they made them kiss, even though they shouldn't have, because Peter Quill hadn't evolved enough as a human being and as a person to actually deserve that romantic attachment to Gamora. But they also killed her off and rebooted her entirely. So.
Go
Guardians
through all
of the
that
Galaxy
again.
3 is no longer going to be Guardians of the Galaxy 3. It's going to be people with a weird accelerated timeline, and then another person that just appeared suddenly.
Oh, also, Thor 4 you may have to watch that too. But anyway,
sure.
I guess that's going to be the part 1 of the show. Let's move on to the news with Kyle.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the news with Kyle. You can put a wee jingle, I don't mind.
Okay.
I don't want to get bullied. The news agenda. Okay, let me get my articles up. First, I'm trying to actually remember where we cut off to. Well, I saw actually recently an addition to the Fast X casting is Adam. Is it Adam Richardson? Is that his name? The guy who's in the new Reacher series.
It's Adam something.
Alan Richardson. Sorry, yes, Alan. So he's been casted in that. I've seen kind of reaction on Twitter is quite positive things. I think a lot of people really loved him in the Reacher show, so they're quite happy to see him getting some recognition and going into a big picture. Moving on, we have some casting news again. This time from June. June Part 2 has cast Christopher Walken as the Emperor.
I am so excited about this. I love it.
It's going to be great. So he's obviously going to be playing the father of Florence Pugh's princess. I can't remember her second name. Character in the film, and that's still scheduled for a October 20th, 2023 release.
I think they're starting shooting in August or October.
Very shortly, yeah.
Yeah, they are starting shooting very soon, so exciting for that.
I guess they already had kind of a script in there.
Yeah,
Josh Brolin was talking about he was getting ready for it.
Yeah, there's no doubt that all the visual effects company behind it's already started making big set pieces and things like that for months in advance.
Yeah.
Like ages
plus
ago.
They have a couple they could probably reuse. Cause
oh yeah, a lot of sets and a lot of visual effects and things they could reuse. Absolutely.
Yes. Anyway, we have news from Francis Coppola's Megalopolis.
Yep, Megalopolis.
Yeah. Starring Adam Driver, Forrest Whitaker, John Voight, filmmaker Spockers now, Discovery Lawrence Fishburne. Yeah, Lewis, what do you want to say on that?
Because Francis Ford Coppola hasn't made a film in, I honestly cannot remember. It genuinely has been decades at this point. He tried to get Megalopolis off the ground in the 90s. No studio would finance it. It genuinely just became a pipe dream for him at some point. It just genuinely was never ever going to get made. And now finally, he has his cast together and it's actually coming to fruition. And I'm so excited. I'm so excited to see what this vision of this film that he's just been trying to make for like 30 years and finally has his cast.
Is that not the... Am I right? Why is that? That's not like the film that was in like the 20s, was it?
No, that's Metropolis, not Megalopolis.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
But completely different story.
You mean the one that the lady looks like C-3PO?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. So what's this? Do you have any idea what this film is?
I honestly, I can't. I think it's something to do set with within Hollywood, like the golden era or something like that. I honestly cannot remember.
Could be about anything, honestly.
But interesting.
But also Adam Driver also is just being cast in Michael Mann's next film as well. And someone made a tweet. Someone made a tweet about Adam Driver, basically saying like, "Oh, guy's not even 40, and he's literally worked with some of the best filmmakers ever in history, and he's done so many."
Yeah.
You know,
J.J. Abrams.
Noah Baumbach and Martin Scorsese as well. It's just fantastic.
It's weird how he's exploded in the kind of like more auteur kind of like you know.
Like he's just Ridley Scott loves him as well. Ridley Scott put him in 2 films last year. Yeah,
Ridley Scott loved
him. But yeah, what's next?
It must be fun to work with him, honestly.
Did he love him because he was just quite he kept killing them off in those films.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on. We have a sequel for A Simple Favor has been announced.
Yeah, with
A Simple Favor was a film came out in 2018. Paul Feig and with Anna Kendrick and Blake Lively set to reprise their roles.
I was just interested. Have you guys seen A Simple Favor?
I have not. No.
Yeah, maybe. I think I actually might have.
I don't think I have.
I remember the general concept of the film. And I feel like just remember scenes.
I do remember. I remember quite a bit, and I'm a bit surprised to get this long to greenlight a sequel. Honestly, it's been 4 years. I remember thinking it was okay. I kind of liked it. I remember being kind of like
the main hook of the film.
What was it again? So Blake Lively's character.
She's like a pristine mum or something like that.
Yeah,
and Anna Kendrick's like a new mum to the area.
But then so Anna Kendrick's like the really cute mum who's like really like polite and kind to her kids and that, and Blake Lively's like the really like cool and like something's going on behind the scenes kind of mum. And then and then suddenly Blake Lively disappears, and then it kind of becomes like a mystery. It's like what's happened to her and all that stuff. So I actually kind of wanted to watch it, Gonzalo. I remember enjoying it for what it was. Anyway, what's next, Kyle?
Yeah. Sorry, I was just I'll go and talk on sequels, and I was just like, there's a sequel to a film I've been waiting, and it's just not happening. No. Sorry, I'm just reading what these are, Lewis. This is upsetting. The guests Adam Wingard and Dan Stevens reunite for Godzilla vs. Kong 2.
Oh my god. Yeah.
This film is happening.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say Godzilla vs. Kong came out literally still, during a lot of countries' lockdowns and things like that. And actually shockingly, it turned a profit. And I think that was to Warner Brothers' biggest surprise. They sort of just put it on HBO Max and they just put it in like international cinemas and just went, let's hope for the best. You know, if we make like 300 million, well, I think we'll have made our budget and marketing back. And it made like 468 million worldwide. And they're like, oh wow, imagine if this came out when everything was open, we could have actually made a lot more money. So that's why. Before that, the Monsters universe, they were kind of like winding down. They didn't plan to make any films after Godzilla vs. Kong.
Kong one in that whole universe.
Yeah. But now they're like, you know what? Let's make another one. Let's do another one because that one turned a profit.
Gunfal, you should see the Godzilla film. King of the Monsters, incredible film. It's really good because for you, it keeps popping up locations where people are, like all the monsters in the universe in the world. And I'm just beneficial. I think it's gonna be very helpful. Sometimes though people can't read, as Lewis will know, and they'll just yell out like that's Skull Island.
What are our last two bits of news for today?
Last two bits of news. We'll go. Pixar have announced what their new film will be. It is called Elemental, directed by Peter Sohn, and is following an unlikely pair. Amber and Wade, who live in a city where fire, water, land, and air residents live together. The film releases on June 16th, 2023.
Ooh,
exciting.
I hope it's a murder mystery, just because then Elemental is a pun, and I would love that very much.
You think Pixar is going to do a murder? Pixar's going to do it. Well, I suppose they don't mind killing off people in their first few minutes, do they?
They really don't.
I guess murder mystery kids film can be interesting.
You know, I like just a tiny little tangent. Like when I think about Marvel and like all the issues and stuff, it's like, oh, they have to set up this whole world and all of these mechanics and how like it works and stuff to like set up a story. So like there's a lot to set up of like weird superheroes and stuff and magic-y and blah blah blah. A lot of rules to then set up a story. And then you just reminded me that Pixar does that almost in every single movie effortlessly. And I'm like, no, that's not an excuse. Okay.
No, it's definitely not an excuse. Definitely not an excuse. Okay, what is our other bit of news?
The last bit of news I have is we got a teaser trailer for Prey. Prey is the new Predator film set in like something like 3000 BC or something.
No, it's not.
I'm sorry, the name is hilarious. The name is fucking hilarious.
And it's coming out August 10th, and it's going straight to, I think it's Hulu in America, so I don't know where it's coming here.
It'll be Disney Plus Star. Yeah. Right. Okay. Gonzalo, did you watch the trailer?
Prey. Okay, it's probably. I'm not saying it's gonna be a bad one. I'm just saying that the fact that they call this Prey is really fucking funny.
No, did you watch the trailer?
It's Prey.
Did you watch the trailer?
Yeah, what's the trailer?
No, actually, don't bother watching it. Don't bother watching it now.
The first film was called Predator, and this is called Prey.
Right. Okay. You know what? I'm sick of you, Kyle. Right? Because I watched the trailer.
The marketing
and
team were just like, "Hey guys, we have a mind boggle here."
That's what I mean. What I mean. It's fucking hilarious that they went with Prey.
No, honestly, guys, Kyle, shut up. Kyle, shut up. Right? No.
How about this one be called Prey? Because the first one was a Predator.
No.
That is mind blowing.
Right,
I have just come from a room where they went, we need a multiverse, and somebody said red light go, and that is the most unique thing we've thought of today.
Okay, Kyle, shut the fuck up, right? I watched this trailer, and I was like, 45 seconds or whatever, and I was like, this is great. I love the idea, and I'll tell you why. Just making the Predator scary again, making it in making it a period where we didn't have missiles and military weapons. We literally had bow and arrows, and utilizing that as a concept, I think, is really interesting to actually make this just a 90-minute tense horror film with the Predator again. And actually, this was an idea I was saying to Kel before the show.
Yeah, just watch the trailer. Yeah, it looks cool.
It's an idea they've been toying with for years. Literally, they wanted to make, way back when Predator 2 came out, this was like the original idea, was to set it back like during in the 1700s, I think the period was, to make it they barely had any gunfire or anything, and they had to go up against the Predator.
You know what would be awesome? Like Predator, but it's in the middle of like the Indian American War. Oh, that'd
Exactly. So it's like, okay, let's just take the Predator out of the modern era, and let's get a bit more creative with it. So I'm actually all for the idea.
I like that.
And the Tenko,
because most of the sequels have been like, hey, now that we know it exists, we got our tech and created the super cool gun that can kill it.
Yeah.
Let's go try kill it.
Exactly.
So like, I get that.
And also it's the guy who directed 10 Cloverfield Lane. If you haven't seen that, that's a really well directed film.
That one's really good. That one's really good. I like the whole tension thing. So it's probably gonna be a fucking nightmare of a film.
I am actually very intrigued by it. I actually completely forgot this film was ever getting made, and I'm really all for it. Anyway, I'll just run down the weekend box office.
Nice.
So obviously I do my usual, I'll do North America and then the worldwide total. So Doctor Strange, The Multiverse of Madness obviously came in first place. It dropped and made 61 million this weekend, which was a 68% drop, I think, or 67. And its worldwide gross is now.
I'm sad to say that I contributed to
that. Its worldwide total is now at $688 million, so it'll well on its way to making $1 billion plus. What do we have next? Sorry. So we had at number 2, we had The Bad Guys again, coming at number 2.
I'm still surprised this is getting as much.
Another 6.9 million, made 165 million in total worldwide, so it's actually not doing too bad for its budget.
Turns out the furry community really love this movie, so that might be it. It just might be the furry community giving it all the money they have.
So, number 3, we have Sonic the Hedgehog 2, making another 4.6 million. Its worldwide total is now at 355 million. The new Firestarter, the new remake of the Stephen King adaptation, meant to be absolutely awful, made 3.8 million, worldwide total of 5.8 million. Did you ever watch the trailers for that, Gonzalo?
I watch the trailers because they keep appearing everywhere I go. I feel like they're really desperate to get me to watch it, so they just keep putting the trailer in front of me. And I'm like, I never really liked the original, so I don't like this one either.
The trailers look terrible. It generally looked like a TV movie, not like a streaming film, like a TV movie you'd find on like Channel 5 or something. It looked bad.
Style,
Ready at the top 5, another 3.3 million, Everything Everywhere All at Once. Still clinging to the top 5 in North America. It's great to see. Worldwide total of 51 million, and that means it's double its budget of 25 million. So it's turned a profit, I think. So that's great to see. Everything Everywhere All at Once is actually making a bit of money, and of course I'll review that at the end of the show today. So,
I am so excited to watch that. Oh my god, I'm so excited.
So that will round out the news, I think. I
have nothing else.
Yeah, great. So let's just kind of jump back into our whole Marvel cinema discussion. And actually,
to contrast the beginning, could we talk about the things that we think, like the positive things that we think the MCU have brought to like filmmaking as a whole?
Okay. I'm going to start with
money.
Actually, no. Right. Okay. I'm going to start with something positive. I remember when that first Avengers film came out in 2012, and I remember the hype.
Just a boy.
I know. I remember the hype going in to see that. It's, to me, to this day, that is still one of the best like cinematic experience I've ever had. Genuinely, like, in terms of, but I think that was more to do with, I guess, the build up going in, and see the audience. It was packed out. Every seat was taken, and just the pure, all the jokes landed, all the action beats hit great, and just the pure, just the feeling in that room was just something that I don't think, even to an extent, Endgame and Infinity War, I never really got that feeling again of just everyone in the room vibing with the film so much. I guess that all comes down to, because I think that was the first time this had ever really happened. The first time you've built up, how many films was at that point? Iron Man 1, 2, Hulk, 5 films. You had 5 films building up to this event. And just everyone, and even if you look at the box office, all those ones previously, before Avengers, they were obviously successful and did decent, but nowhere near what Avengers ended up making. There was just such intrigue and build up to this whole crossover idea, and it all culminating in this, really special event that was that first Avengers film. And like you said, they're rebuilding from kind of scratch now with Phase 4 and having to sort of chase that sort of that that hype again.
That high.
But it doesn't feel as earned anymore, I guess, for me, because it feels like we said, they're cannibalizing their own success. They're bringing in cameos and they're bringing in characters from other universes and previous films again and again, so just to sort of...
The big reunion is no longer a big reunion if you have a reunion in every movie.
Just to sort of, try and, I guess, get a spark, just get a little bit of a slither of what that first Avengers film really was, because once you've done it once, you can't do it again.
See, that's something interesting to me, because like what you said and that experience that you had, like, despite the fact that like objectively the first Avengers movie is really nothing to write home about, it's just a pretty decent action flick, you know, like that really, like, 'cause what we do here, we look at films objectively and we try to analyze them and see whether like they're good and why not, but like that really ends up not mattering, because that experience that you had in that cinema, like first time watching it, that hype, that spark that was in the air, like that can't be taken away from you no matter how much you analyze a movie.
Yeah.
Like that is still as valid and just as powerful as like the movie being objectively or subjectively good. You know?
Yeah. But this actually this is kind of the point, right? So for me, right, like if you were to ask me, or if you, I guess this is hard now because there's 28 of them. Like, are all of these cinema? Well, I guess on a technical perspective, they were cinematic releases and they were made by a studio with actors and special effects and mise en scène, I guess. Anyway, with a score and everything, right? Yes, they are technically films. Yes, and if you were to ask me to see that experience of that first Avengers film, absolutely, that was experiential for me as a child, and just like getting that feeling was just amazing, and just having a great time at the cinema. But I think it's kind of like, for example, if you make a cup of coffee, right, and you add a bit of milk to it, you still get that taste of coffee, right? You still, but the more milk you add to it, the less it becomes coffee. Do you understand what I'm saying? So the more you're adding to this sort of thing, the more you're drawing things out, the more you're extrapolating things further, the magic is sort of slowly being taken away, like the taste of coffee's disappearing.
See, it's kind of like where I went to when we discussed the recent Batman movie and the possibility of a sequel. I was vehemently against a sequel actually happening. I thought the best thing that could happen for this movie is to just stay as it was, because I thought it was really good as it was, and just move on and do something else. And as humans, we do have this feeling that like once we've bonded to a story and to a set of characters, we kind of want to see more from them. But there is a point where it's okay to say, that's it, that's the story I wanted to say, that's the end. There's not going to be any more, it's just going to stay as that. But like I said, the problem there is there's a studio behind this. There's a monetary incentive. There's people clamoring for another one, and there's clearly going to be money made from that next movie. So they're going to make a next movie.
It also becomes hard for people, especially people of our generation and younger, around our age, who have they went to the cinema and saw Iron Man in 2008 as a kid, and it's hard for people to then sort of abandon a franchise or abandon a story that was such a big part of their childhood. And that's why everyone our age, or like everyone who'd ever watched a few of these films when they were kids and goes to see the latest one, to sort of like not as if they kind of owe their younger selves, in a sense, like they're still attached to this franchise because it meant to so much to them as a kid, even if it has completely changed and altered what it was when you originally saw as a child. There's still that, like, I still am sort of chasing that feeling I had when I was a kid. And we talked about comfort food earlier. Like, there is sort of that idea with it. And that's kind of a sad way to look at it.
I know, it is. But like we've learned with a lot of films, they talk about this topic. Things are only valuable because they end. Yeah.
But actually, I remember after Endgame came out, and after when COVID obviously hit and there was no Marvel films throughout all 2020, and people asked, man, Endgame really felt like the end. It's going to be really hard for Marvel to get people back in those seats and get invested again. And obviously Spider-Man came out and became one of the biggest films of all time. But That
Well, yeah, but
that
you
point, right?
forget that the next one after Endgame was Spider-Man: Far From Home.
Yeah, which made billion.
Which wasn't that well received.
Oh, made like $1.3 billion though. It was a massive success.
Economically.
Right? Yeah, economically, right. What I'm saying is,
as fans, they weren't really into that film that much.
For I guess the best way in my head, this is purely personal. From a business perspective, obviously they never would have done this.
Obviously.
It'd be really dumb. But from a personal perspective, to sort of recapture the magic, I guess, what for me they should have done was after Endgame go like, yeah, that's it, and then 10 years later it comes back. 10 years later you have like Avengers 5, or 10 years later you just have the next generation of whatever phase 4 is now, 10
new
years
characters,
later.
New actors, new world, yeah, for sure.
Just give us that room to breathe a bit and to really embrace what this was, and really kind of make all of these films. At that point, Endgame was what, the 23rd or
like we're
whatever.
Let's be honest, we're all children here,
Yeah.
and we like candy, and candy tastes good, and we want more of it. But there's a point where like you gotta stop eating candy, or you're gonna fucking die. So, yeah, we're at that point where like oversaturated with candy, and we kind of want something salty right now.
Yeah,
we're not getting it.
No, that's a good point. And I mean, for us, it's easy, right? Because we see a lot of films. Me and Kelsey go out to the cinema all the time, every week, pretty much. We see kind of what's new, what's different, what interests us. We're constantly looking for the next best thing. But for a lot of people, that's not what cinema is. Cinema for them is, like what's being advertised to me, what looks cool, and Marvel has hooked people in based on their laurels, and it's now sort of become, in a sad way, I guess this is kind of what a lot of new blockbuster cinema is. It's sort of like loyalty to a brand in a way. You had...
there's also the psychological effect of like, what's that called? Like when you invest a lot of time and effort into something, it's harder to then stop,
Yeah, exactly.
I forget what that's like a thing. It's with gambling and stuff. It's like a psychological effect as human beings. Like if we've invested a lot of time and effort into an activity, it's harder to stop than if you just started.
Absolutely.
I feel like that's why I myself, the reason I go to watch these Marvel movies is probably because of that. Like I put so much effort into this universe and these characters, and I'm like, okay, I'll see what happens next.
Yeah, you've spent so much time. You're like, it's sort of like. You don't really want to miss one anymore, because you're like you're out of the pop culture sphere in a way, you're outside of that, and you're sort of just like, oh, that's weird that I've missed one. I feel like I can't let it go in a weird way. It kind of becomes like that, and it's this idea that I guess this extends beyond the whole Marvel thing. It's that this idea of like recognizing IPs and brands has become what people are obsessed with, because there is now with social media and like Twitter and TikToks and everything, you want to be in the conversation. You want to be a part of it. That's why people go see like the latest big whatever, because they see a brand that they have any sort of fragment of an attachment to. They've seen it as a child or whatever, and they're like, I need to be part of the pop culture conversation. I feel like it has to mean something.
I love how we started this episode talking about the issue with Marvel movies and the whole controversy about it. And at this point, we're just realizing that maybe it's a capitalism. Maybe the issue with Marvel
that's what it
movies
is. It's sort of like
this late stage capitalism.
That's what it's kind of become. Like it's kind of become. We're getting to a point where it's cinema based on businesses and brands. And that's what people want to see.
I feel like, okay, we're talking about this and it feels incredibly hopeless, and it feels like there's not going to be like a change, because there probably isn't. At this point, it would be very safe to say that Marvel's going to run itself into the ground, and there's no getting Marvel out of there. But like we have to remember that like even though Marvel is like a big icon of nerd culture, and like it's been there for ages and has like so much baggage to it and so much importance to like a lot of people, there's other things out there, and there's new great stuff coming out every day, and I feel like there is hope, because like how I think we talked about this in our very first episode, but like the same way that we've seen the internet kind of like open people to like independent video games, and now you don't need a huge a studio to create a game that takes the world by storm. I think we're going to start seeing that like that same thing with media, with like videos and shows and TV and the whole idea of movie making itself. You already have incredibly talented people doing amazing things, and the more that technology goes forward, the easier it is for filmmakers to just start doing stuff because they want to, you know? And I have a feeling, and I am optimistic, that we're going to not only see a lot of incredible new films that we're already seeing and sadly aren't getting the same attention that they need, but like people are going to get tired of the same old thing, and they're going to want new, they're going to want different, and they have a place that they can go looking for it. You know? Well, with the advent of streaming, a lot of the indie movies that didn't get like that reception in cinemas are going to be revitalized. You know, we've seen this like in the past years with like a lot of cult movies that were completely discarded and abandoned back when they came out in the last century are being picked up again, you know?
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about that superhero movie fatigue that people have been talking about for genuinely a decade now. It's genuinely been going on. Yeah. But I guess I want to end the discussion talking about this part actually. I'll ask you and then I'll ask Kyle. When and if do you see the Marvel Cinematic Universe coming to an end, running out of steam? And do you think there'll be an inverse of like I said at the start, with 60s and 70s cinema was filmmakers in competition with each other, what could make the boldest movie the next thing that will make people rush in to see it? Will we see an inverse of that where like we've gone through this cycle, we're going to go back to what it was in the 60s and 70s? Gonzalo, I was going to ask you.
Oh, I completely think that's true. We see that with everything, trend cycle, and generations do the opposite of the previous one. Studying art movements in school, it was always that one movement goes for realism, the next one comes along and says fuck realism, we're doing weird shit, and the next one is like, oh, this is too weird, let's go back to realism. I feel like we're gonna see that back and forth a lot, and we're gonna see an evolution of cinema. And like I said, you know, Marvel stories resonate with a lot of people, but there's more out there, and we're going to see new stuff, and we're going to see new things. And you say the superhero genre is like something people are tired of. I think it's more just the superhero genre, like not the genre itself, not the idea of a superhero, but the whole trope thing, you know, reusing the same trope, reusing the same things over and over again. It does feel comfy, but after a while you do get tired of eating the same thing over and over again. So do you see,
because for me, I can't see it in the foreseeable future, when Doctor Strange has a massive opening, when Spider-Man had like this is the 5th highest grossing film of all time. Like for me, I can't see the end of it, and I'm just wondering if, I don't know. I'm not telling you to put a year on or anything. I'm just saying, like,
I think there's going to be a point, but again, I feel like the problem is that, as always, like art reflects society, and right now we are in a moment of uncertainty and uncomfortableness and fear, and things are changing really fast and not in a good way sometimes. And that does contribute to the idea of just going for something safe. I know myself, when I go to like sit down to watch a movie, I need to brace myself to watch something like The Green Knight, or something that is truly impactful and moving and makes me feel like a certain way, because otherwise I'd rather just watch something that's comfortable, because everything else already is impactful and sad and weird and makes me question reality. So I know that is the trend right now, but I am hopeful that it's going to change, and I already am seeing like a little glimmer of hope. Again, the fact that Everything Everywhere All at Once is still number 5 in the global box office as of now is hopeful. It's
right.
Very hopeful.
Kel, what about you? Do you see an end in sight for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or do you see this going on for just constantly chugging along till the end of time?
Well, I think it ended at Endgame.
Yeah, for
I think that's when it ended being good at Endgame.
Right.
I think they'll just keep going until it runs out of money.
So
like they're not going to stop. They're not going to just go, okay, that's the story done.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, is there any sort of time frame you can see it coming to an end? Like, I could see it. I could see people losing interest in 6 years' time, or do you not see that anytime soon?
I don't see that. Yeah. I don't see it being like, I don't see like maybe after this saga.
Right. Oh god. That's gonna be a while. Like 10 years or something. Yeah.
Honestly, maybe like the ending of the saga is so atrociously bad that people are like, okay, fuck, I'm done.
Or maybe you know how Kevin Feige's saying he's doing the next 10 years. Maybe he's just like, I'm gonna do the next 10 years, then it's gonna stop, and then I'll bring it back in 10 years after that. Like, he'll finally put it to bed for a little bit.
Just die now. I'll retire forever.
Yeah.
Because, as much as we've criticized the way he's running things in this episode, I could never do the job that he's doing. And I still feel like
he's still what he managed to do, and so in the film industry is actually incredible that he's managed to put this all together. And
we've criticized a lot, but it is important to say and mention that the fact that this even is a thing that we can talk about is absolutely incredible and unbelievable and wonderful.
But hey, Gonzalo, like you, I am hopeful too. I am hopeful that, I guess, even when talking to some friends, and maybe it's just the Doctor Strange thing, maybe they just thought it was okay and they just weren't bothered. We'll wait till the next one, see how that is. Wait till Thor. But I don't know.
I'm still hoping Thor is good, so I get that. Like, that's
It better be. We're gonna do a goddamn episode on it. So yeah, I don't know if. I guess this kind of goes back to our second episode we ever did about our cinemas dying. You know, like, will people kind of switch gears and be like, you know what? No, let's watch something. Let's go to the cinema this month and let's look up what we want to see and look up and see something completely wild and something different and something crazy. That isn't a Marvel film. But so thanks for running that discussion off. Actually, that was really good. So yeah, I'll just do a quick review of Everything Everywhere All at Once, which finally released here in the UK just on Friday.
Reviews, yes.
So I've already done a written review of this, so I'll just kind of summarise it. I'll do a wee quick 5-minute one. But yeah, so I said in my review, actually, it was quite interesting that here in the UK they released it literally a week after Doctor Strange. Like, obviously in America it came in months ago, and same with other markets. In here, they went.
Because for everyone who doesn't know, it's also very much heavily based on like the idea of a multiverse.
Yes, it is a multiverse film through and through. And what I said, it is interesting that they went, let's release this, get on the train, the hype train of a multiverse. And and guess what? This is the better multiverse of madness. This is the definitive multiverse of madness. That's what Everything Everywhere All at Once truly is. So yeah, just sort of the starting premise
celebrating on his screen
is that Evelyn, played by Michelle Yeoh, is kind of a moment of crisis in her life. Her work's running her down. Her daughter Joy, played by Stephanie Sue, she's frustrated with her mother's inability to accept her sexuality, and she's using her grandfather to sort of like hide behind that, like, oh, he's an older generation and like he couldn't accept it, so I'm just protecting you, sort of thing, when actually she's uncomfortable with it. Not only that, but Waymond, played by Ke Huy Quan, is also feeling disconnected from his wife. He's in a point where it's like she doesn't spend any time talking to him anymore. He feels a bit estranged from her. And kind of piling on the pressure of her own life is that their business is about to get audited. They're going to have to go to visit the tax office and have to explain why all these business expenses are coming out, and everything is sort of, tumbling. As Jamie Lee Curtis says in the film, it's like the end of the story does not look good. But at that moment at the tax office, a Wayman from another universe comes through and seems to tell Evelyn that you're the chosen one. We need you to help save all the multiverses. And that is very much the starting premise of this film. Very crazy, very chaotic. But it's undoubtedly the most creative film I've seen in a very long time. It's one that really the writers, the Daniels directed and wrote this, embraced the idea of a multiverse. They probably went on a whiteboard, wrote multiverse, put it in a mind map and went, name a universe, do it, and let's do this, you know, homages to other films, you know, other weird, just really outside the box thinking, and managing to bring all this multiversal concepts and jumping between universes and different styles and stories and sensibilities, you know, from action to comedy to emotional and romantic films. Be able to blend this insanity and make it coherent, make it quite, you know, you can follow it. Nothing, you're never like, oh wait, where are we now? What's going on? Having ability to balance it.
That was the one thing that I was worried about, because like it looked creative in every sense of the word. It looked like an explosion of creativity. But I feel like that's the tricky part. Like managing to like still weave a coherent tale throughout that madness, you know?
Yeah. But yeah, it's that balance which I think is the key and the most impressive thing to what the Daniels have done here, is being able to merge all these universes, and yet simultaneously there is an undercurrent, there is an emotional story about family, about acceptance, about empathy, about having to face the consequences of your own life choices. All of that, all these many themes bundled in together with a creative explosion of different universes, as well as being comedic and emotional, and having absolutely fantastic action sequences, really great fight choreography, which Michelle Yeoh is a veteran in. She did Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. She's you know, if you've watched that film, she has one of the best hand-to-hand fight scenes, you know, put to cinema.
The grey fight, oh my god.
Yeah, it's so fantastic.
Oh god, and she's amazing.
And it is, Michelle Yeoh leads this film brilliantly. This is one of the best performances of the year I've seen. She can juggle it all. She can literally do the emotional beats. She can hit all those hard moments. She can do the incredible fight scenes. She can be really funny. Like it's one of these performances. It was like, wow, I'm literally jealous of your talent, what you're able to pull off here. Yeah. You know, Ken Hoi Kwan as well. He hasn't acted in 20 years. He played Short Round actually in Indiana Jones Temple of Doom and Goonies.
Yes, he did.
And he hasn't acted in 20 years, and it genuinely looks like he's not missed a day. He plays Waymond with just this. He's one of the most wholesome, sweet, funny characters I've seen in a long time as well. He's just this great like beacon of light in this film. Like really manages to also, like Michelle, just pull off multiple variations of performances and just be one of the most, you know, emotionally hard hitting, you know, pillars of the film. I
know this is early, Kyle, but are we thinking Oscar nominations here?
I do. I mean, it's not an Oscar film at all. It's weird and it's zany and you know, rude at points and crude and all sorts. But I do. I think really what you get here is actually a really touching and emotional film at the end of the day, as well as it being crazy and chaotic and action heavy. It's a film that managed to encompass so much in its 2 hours and 20 minutes. Genuinely, you are exhausted and kind of overwhelmed at points of what it's doing, you know, visually and emotionally. And really, it's actually quite an achievement that they're all able to do this all in one film. I'll also say Jamie Lee Curtis is a really great surprise in this film. She's a lot of fun too. So is Stephanie Hsu as Joy. She adds... she's actually quite vital to the film's like emotional weight too. Like just a fantastic cast, a fantastic lead. And I will say
you're making it so much harder right now not to just watch it.
No, and I'm holding a lot back because there's a lot I can't say that's in this film. But it's one of these. It's an absurdist comedy, drama, action film that it really sticks the landing for me. And I will say that some people might see it and they might go, oh, it was a bit too crazy, a bit too hard to follow, but honestly that is just bullshit to me. I think there's very little wrong with it. I think to me, I'd say it's maybe about 10-15 minutes too long actually. I think that's probably the only criticism, because when we get to the third act we kind of reach a crescendo and then we dip back down, then we reach another crescendo and you're like, oh, okay. Right, we're having to go along with it. And I will say
I've seen that a lot in a lot of recent movies, honestly. I think
I will say it is maybe perhaps 10 minutes too long, but honestly I've seen it twice now. I've been buzzing coming out of it both times. Watch it a second time, I'm always apprehensive seeing it a second time. It's like, oh, is what I thought and what I wrote right? Will I actually have to, back up on what I've thought? But absolutely not. Yeah. Everything I thought when I first saw it, I felt all the emotional beats felt the same. The comedy worked just as good. I've also not been in a cinema where just having so many people laugh. It's great. The first time I saw it was a really, really busy cinema, and just like all the jokes, like I was talking about the Avengers earlier. All the jokes really punched and hit, and just it really made me just happy that this film exists. Honestly, it just made me happy that just a pair of filmmakers got together and made something so complete, really.
Well, as
and so
the rumor
creative.
goes, this film wouldn't exist without the MCU, because if the rumor I've heard is correct, the Daniels were hired to write the plot for Loki.
Yeah,
and
they did.
Multiversal
they were
thing.
hired to do
and
it.
And it was after a creative disagreement that they left and wrote this movie instead.
Yeah, they thought to themselves, here, I think we could do something a bit better with the multiverse concept, and they did it. And actually, it's great that this came out before Doctor Strange in America. It's like, actually, we came first. We did our multiverse film first. You copied us, haha. But yeah, literally, I don't like to just sort of use this as a comparison to sort of like belittle another film, but honestly, the multiverse stuff in Doctor Strange is literally nothing compared to what they do in this.
So you get this movie should have had the subtitle of Multiverse of Madness instead.
Absolutely, that's what this is. And I've not since like The Worst Person in the World, which I saw earlier this year, that kind of had a great creative influx and was a really complete film. Have I felt this way? Really, so far this year, it's been actually really good in terms of really creative and interesting films. And at the end of the day, I think for me this is a 9 out of 10. I think really
that means a lot coming from you.
9 out of 10. Maybe just if it was like 10-15 minutes a little bit shorter, a little bit tighter, that third act, I think really this could have been it. But honestly, I'm just so happy this film exists, and I'm just so happy that I came out of that screen just like smiling and just like, man, it just hit on all cylinders. And Everything Everywhere All at Once is easily one of the best films so far this year, and I really hope...
You're making my waiting a lot harder right now.
Not too much longer, Gonzalo. And I know Kyle's seeing it tomorrow, so I'm really happy for him that you get to go see it.
Yeah,
it's going to be good.
But yeah, I'm interested to see what you think, Kyle, because maybe I've oversold it to you, and I'm worried I have. Yeah. But I really wasn't.
We'll see.
And because it was also one of those films that Twitter was going crazy about, and everyone was like gushing about, and it's one of those ones where you kind of sit back and go, oh no, everyone's saying this is the best film, ever, and it's just like, oh no, it's not going to live up to that. But honestly, it did live up to that hype for me, and I was very happy. So
we will see, Lewis. We will see.
Everything Everywhere All at Once, 9 out of 10. And that will wrap up today's show, guys. So thank you very much for joining me, and thank you for indulging me in this discussion of Marvel and cinema and the state of cinema today.
Yes, I'm sorry this was a bit more of a downer than most episodes are. We tend to be a lot more positive and a lot more fun. But this was a topic that was really dear and near to my heart, and I really wanted to get it off my chest.
No, I'm glad you raised it, Gonzalo, because I thought this was a therapeutic discussion actually, and really interesting.
A therapeutic discussion.
Yeah.
Despite everything, the fact that you were giving the example of Everything Everywhere All at Once and Worst Person in the World, despite everything you see, even if audiences aren't receptive to it, struggle does create amazing art, and we have seen this in the past few years. I think with the indie circuit, we've had some really interesting, really amazing, quite amazing movies.
Yeah, obviously we'll do our mid-year roundup in June, but so far this year it's actually been really good in terms of cinema, I think. But yeah, that'll wrap up. On next week's show, we are going to carry on the downbeat vibe, because we're going to be talking about the worst sequels we have ever seen. We did our best sequels a couple of weeks ago, so we're obviously going to return to this and think about some of the worst sequels. And hopefully we won't get too depressed for that one. But that'll be next week's show. So I want to thank Kyle. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
And thank you, Gonzalo.
Yeah, Thank you. Pleasure.
Yes. Guys, obviously, as always, please follow the podcast on Spotify, follow us on YouTube, like, comment, do whatever. Everything you do will help. If you want to see more articles, I have my Everywhere All at Once review, everywhere, all at once review on unwantedopinion.net, a full written one if you want to see something less sporadic and me ranty about it and read it in your own voice. So yeah, but guys, whatever your thoughts are on the Marvel cinema and is it cinema, what we gave was just our wanted opinion. So that'll wrap up today's show, and goodbye.
Bye.